The Middle East Institute presents Kurdistan After the Elections, a discussion with Qubad Talabani.
Relations officer for the PUK when he was in Iraq in 2003, and in that capacity worked closely with the US-led Office of Reconstruction and Humanitarian Assistance, and he subsequently became the PUK's top liaison officer with the Coalition Provisional Authority. He was also a key PUK negotiator during the drafting of the Transitional Administrative Law, Iraq's first post-Saddam constitution. So thank you very much for joining us today, Mr. Talabani. But before we begin, just a few housekeeping matters. This Thursday, we're hosting a wonderful Egyptian intellectual, Abdelmenem Said. He's the former head of the El Ahram Center for Political and Strategic Studies. He will be talking about the Egyptian view of the Arab-Israeli peace process. He comes in advance of President Hosni Mubarak's visit to the White House, which is happening next week. So Mr. Abdelmenem Said is here for that, and that is happening this Thursday. I hope you can make it. Next week, continuing on this topic of Kurdistan, we've got Joost Hilterman of the International Crisis Group, who will be joining us to discuss his report called Iraq and the Kurds, Trouble Along the Trigger Line. It just came out and provides excellent analysis of what he believes are the new fault lines in Iraq. And then finally, next Wednesday, August 19th, the Pakistan Studies Center will be hosting a discussion about development challenges in Pakistan with the former head of the Aga Khan University, Dr. Shams Qasim Lakha, and I hope you can join us. Now, please join me in welcoming Mr. Talabani. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. I will, as much as I love Washington, D.C., I will exchange the hot humidity of Washington, D.C. for the dry, arid heat of Kurdistan any day. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to you about our recent elections in Kurdistan and the general progress that's being made in the Kurdistan region. I have just returned off the back of an historic set of elections for the President and Parliament of the Kurdistan region. These elections were truly a milestone in Kurdistan's journey towards democracy. There was both a lively and free campaign period, along with a relatively smooth and trouble-free election day, where almost 80% of the region's 2.5 million eligible voters turned out to vote, took part in the elections. The elections were heralded by the Independent High Electoral Commission of Iraq and other international observers as fair and transparent. These elections are also a significant landmark in our region's history, as several entirely different slates of candidates divided up the vote in a meaningful way in accordance with the wishes of the people that turned out to vote at these elections. The parties in power lost some support while continuing to be the largest bloc in the government. But at the same time, there is a healthy opposition that has gained strength and momentum in Kurdistan's politics. That means that our next government will both have the experience and continuity of progress, along with the expanded ideas and robust debate and new energy. Add to those impressive numbers the fact that at least 30% of the members of the new parliament will be women. That percentage is greater than any other national or regional government in the Middle East, in North America, or even most of Europe. Moreover, the parliament will have representation from every religious and ethnic constituency within the region. So the real winner in these elections was the Kurdistan region itself, and not any particular slate or candidate. The American President John Adams once wrote that legislatures should be an exact portrait in miniature of the people at large, and it should think, feel, reason, and act like them. That is what our parliament is trying to aspire to. We were challenged by some to hold the gold standard in elections. We accepted that challenge, and we delivered. We have achieved much in our experiment in self-governance, and of course there is much more to achieve, and we intend to achieve it. All of those who observed, monitored, and worked the elections praised the way that it was run. They praised the enthusiasm and the excitement of the voters and the transparency of the process. The electoral process took place in accordance with the highest international standards, said the Independent High Electoral Commission of Iraq. It has only recorded about 650 complaints that had been filed, and they regard this as just a small number of the total vote. Because the objective voices of others are often not heard in the din of self-serving bloggings and pontifications, I also feel it is important to share with you just a few voices from people that have no vested interest about these elections. I promise that it'll be just a few, but I'm like a proud parent. I want to share with you all the good things that have been said about our elections. The US Embassy in Baghdad, in a statement, congratulated the people of the Kurdistan region of Iraq for coming out to vote in large numbers for the regional, presidential and parliamentary elections, thus demonstrating their commitment to democratic progress. The presidency of the European Union, which sent observers to polling stations across the region and helped with a long-term electoral experts mission, congratulated the people of Iraqi Kurdistan for holding the elections in a relatively competitive environment and were carried out in a secure manner. The high voter turnout, preliminary 78.5%, shows the commitment of the voters to express their political will in a democratic way. The United Nations Assistance Mission in Iraq congratulated election officials and the people of Kurdistan for the large turnout, especially among women voters, in last week's peaceful elections, and they praised voters for exercising their right to elect new regional, parliamentary and presidential representatives. Bipartisan members of the Kurdish American Congressional Caucus said that the successful elections marked yet another milestone in the region's development towards a democratic and transparent society. They said that the July 25th election is just the latest example of the Kurdistan region moving forward in fulfilling its democratic aspirations. Fulfilling our democratic aspirations is key to us. I'm quite proud of how democracy is finally finding a welcome home in the Kurdistan region. None of us had any experience in building a democracy before the opportunity presented itself. But from the moment the political dynamic changed in Iraq in '92, and then again in 2003, we have been taking steps to ensure that our opportunity is not wasted. The July 25th elections were about the maturing of our society, the emphasis on the nuts and bolts of domestic issues that affect people's everyday lives. One of the great speakers of the US House of Representatives, Tip O'Neill, made famous the phrase, "All politics is local." And the mantra was evident in Kurdistan on July 25th. On key national issues, there was not much difference between the different slates and candidates. Instead, it was perspectives on government performance, roads, education, electricity, concerns regarding corruption, economic development, and water that shaped the debates that led up to the July 25th elections. It was a clear marker in the shift from where Kurdish leaders were once hailed for their revolutionary skills to now where they are chosen on their visions of governance and their ability to make each person's life better each day. As stated earlier, now there will be an even more vibrant opposition within the parliament of the Kurdistan region. We all expect vigorous debate, and there certainly will be new dynamics within the Kurdistan regional government and throughout Iraqi Kurdistan. While President Barzani was re-elected by an impressive 69% vote, in the other vote cast, we will have a new cabinet, along with many new members of parliament. The new dynamic naturally raises questions about what will come next, both for within Kurdistan and also in its relations with the federal government in Baghdad. While it was evident that those elections were primarily about Kurdistan and not Baghdad, the strong voter turnout shows that all citizens of Iraqi Kurdistan rightfully demand a voice in their affairs and in their future, both within the Kurdistan region and also, by extension, the federal government. And I think that Baghdad has already taken notice. Shortly after the elections, the Prime Minister of Iraq, His Excellency Nouri al-Maliki, visited the Kurdistan region to meet with our region's leaders. It was a significant gesture on his part to help revive discussions on the issues that must be resolved sooner rather than later in order for all of Iraq to move forward. We in Kurdistan appreciated the gesture, and we will send a delegation to Baghdad to continue working on resolving these outstanding issues. Solving these issues is a great priority to our friends in the United States. We realize this, and we look to whatever guidance and support they can give us. But solving these issues is even of a greater importance and priority to us. No matter what the makeup of the parliament is, the elected leaders of the Kurdistan region are united in our determination that the region be treated fairly and in accordance with the Constitution of Iraq. Disputed territories, laws regarding consensual governance, hydrocarbons and revenue sharing must be dealt with by this new government. The July election may change some of the faces, but it will not change our focus and our unity on resolving these issues.